And we're live. Oh yeah, hello everybody and welcome to Self-Care Sunday. I'm here with my friend Eric. One moment, I'm just pulling up the chat so that we can see it while we sit a little further back.
Hello.
Niam M, Crystal Tiny Falcon, Savannah Hainsworth. So good to see you. Thanks for stopping by for Self-Care Sunday. Before we get underway with housekeeping and announcements, just want to keep... Whoa! I'm trying this new setup where I have a table of goodies right in front of me, and it is liable to be a mess. But anyway, so great to have you all here. Alexi W, M, Nadia P, great to have you. It's me, Tiffy, my friend Eric. How do you say your last name?
Lanigan.
Lanigan.
Yeah.
Eric Lanigan. Eric and I were introduced by a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And we've just been hitting it off. And I feel like he has a really cool perspective on life. We're going to talk about some real creator stuff, some issues that I've been experiencing, and some things that he would have me look at and think about. Before we get into that, I just wanted to go through some updates for you. First of all, if you have no idea who I am or where we are, what's going on, I'm Zach. I'm a creator living in Brooklyn. I was one of the actors and producers on Wolf 359, a science fiction audio drama, and I started as a filmmaker, and this is my YouTube channel. Got a bunch of videos about lots of different stuff, mostly creativity and self-care. If you don't know, I'm also working on a new podcast, two new podcasts actually. One is a self-produced show called Focused AF, and I wanted to thank every one of you that's given me some amazing advice this last week. I applied for a casting call show. It's a new contest from Gimlet and Squarespace. They're looking for the next great podcast host, so I tried out. Thank you guys for submitting recommendations for the sample clip. It's really helpful. And yeah, if you haven't heard the show, you can go to focus.af, and there's a button for Get the Show, and you can find it on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. I'd love your feedback. That's going out every other week on Fridays. So not this last Friday, but next Friday there'll be a new episode, and there was one from the previous Friday. And if anybody is listening to it, I'd love to hear what your favorite episode is in the chat. Welcome, Armpit Sharmpit. I love that. Kiki Dolly. So good
Nice to meet you, Neil.
to see you guys. For those of you who've been waiting patiently for Frame Shift, the audio drama production that I've been putting together from last year's Write a Script in November audio drama contest, where Write a Script in November is sort of like National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, Rise Scrivember, but for writing scripts. And one of the winners, or the winner from the audio drama contest, let's see, Frame Shift, the information, the script itself is actually on the website, and the episode itself, all the recording has been done. It's been a remarkable process. We have an incredible star-studded cast, and yeah, we were hoping to go live June 4th with it. Unfortunately, it's delayed. We're getting the sound effects and everything mixed, and we want to really do this thing right. So that will be ready July 4th. Just wanted to give an update on that. In the meantime, I'm actually looking for artists. If anybody knows artists that would be interested in doing cover art, I know there are a lot of you out there. I'd love to hear from you on Twitter, in the comments, in the chat. We're looking for that little box that's going to go with Frame Shift, the audio drama production. All the proceeds of the audio drama are going to go towards United for Puerto Rico. It'll be sold on Bandcamp for sort of pay what you want. And whoever is interested in doing art, we'd love a volunteer artist. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget because everybody's volunteering their time. But yeah, that's a thing. All right, let's see. The only other show that I'm working on right now that's a podcast that you might want to know about is the Internet 3.0. It's actually a partnership with a company that I've been working with doing the videos for the last year. It's a company called Blockstack. They are building a new decentralized internet. If you watch the comedy show on HBO called Silicon Valley, they're actually consultants on that show, and it's like literally what they're doing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really exciting.
That's cool.
And I get to talk to like really smart internet people that are building crazy stuff. And it's very different from what I've normally done. It sounds a lot more sort of like a tech show / business show, but I'm incredibly excited about it. It's been a really cool opportunity, and Gabrielle and Sarah have been helping me out. I'll let you know when that goes live. Probably going to post up the art on Twitter soon, so if you don't follow me on Twitter, check that out. Twitter.com/Zach Valenti. Holy crap. Alexi W. Talk to me. A Moose. I see you. Emmanuel Feltamo. Great to have you here. I'm well. How is everyone? We'd love to hear from everybody. Awesome. Wow, it sounds like there's a lot of artists here.
It's awesome.
Fuck yeah. Let's see. I think that's it. Oh! Last but not least, shout out to all my supporters on Patreon. You guys are amazing. There are 50 of you now. What the heck? I couldn't fit that many of you in this apartment. That's super cool, and it makes me feel really special. If you are interested in what I'm up to on Patreon, you can check it out at patreon.com/Zach Valenti. It means a lot. It supports all my internet creation, from Focused AF to this, to Frameshift, to like all the experiments that I want to run, and it's really exciting. That there are so many of you these days. The Bee and the Rose Knitting Podcast. Thank you. Can't have a self-care Sunday in Pride Month without a happy Pride Month. I am always rocking.
Love it. It's beautiful.
America loving for once.
For once.
Our country, if you live here, is what we make of it, and let's make it great by loving each other and staying together. DMs work, Twitter's great, comment here for all that stuff. Thank you for being so patient with all these updates.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out how to drink without getting coffee in my mustache.
Oh, man.
It's an experiment.
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing.
It's a bit long right now.
Let's see. The only other update is Tiffy's health is okay. This is my 13-year-old cat that I adopted 2 years ago. She has some pretty bad sinus problems. We don't think there's really a cure. I don't think she's so miserable that... Yeah. Anyway, I think she... Oh, no. I didn't do that thing. I just noticed the chat. So this is funny.
Yeah.
So I'm freaking out right now because the chat... So we see the box. This is total sidebar. So we see the box on the screen where all you were chatting in. I used to have to share that box as a like picture-in-picture in the window.
Yeah.
Because YouTube didn't save the chat.
Oh.
Now they save it and they like put it next to the
video. So that you can watch it. And
yes, you can watch it play back, right?
Cool.
Because you want to see the comments
Live
are like
comments.
half of the thing.
Yeah.
It's like so fun. Otherwise, you might as well just put up a random long video.
Yeah.
And I had a problem because they started adding these moderation features where they like let you show or hide things that the AI thinks are like trolls or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I would do this thing where I would share this window, which has that, which then defeats the purpose of the show hide. So my mods are left being like, yo, bro, like it's just showing it anyway in the video. Like they're getting through. Not that there are any trolls, not many. But so I always had to remember to use the incognito browser window to share that window in the stream. And then have the other one logged in so I could write back. It is a whole thing. Sidebar done. Tiffy's health is just an interesting phenomenon. I was talking about this on Instagram Live, and maybe we could get into this, but
Yeah,
I
we
think
can do
we'll,
some cat coaching.
we'll get a little bit more into the creative stuff. But I never realized when I adopted her that at some point I might have to make a decision about when her last day is. And I don't mean to get dark by saying that. I just have changed my perspective on life and its eventual, seemingly to me at this moment in human history, inevitable end. Since my grandma passed away and I got to hold her hand and be with her in her last moment. I don't think it's necessarily bad. She was suffering a lot. I think there's some mercy in the end of life. And I inherited Tiffy from my friend Julia, who I wasn't with when she passed, but she did pass 2 years ago. And she had threatened to haunt me if I didn't take care of her cats when she went, because she had a great sense of humor. And so that's how I have Tiffany, because I don't want to get haunted. Julia, do it. No, I would have taken in Tiffy anyway, because she's adorable and the family agreed to pay for her bills, which is necessary because she needed all of her teeth out immediately when I got her because they were terribly infected. And because of the pain she's experienced and sort of the neurosis that I experienced as a parent, a new pet parent, who, thank God for Mr. Rogers. He's a parenting book that I got. My girlfriend just got me this toy, which I love. It's adorable.
Best.
There's a new movie coming out about him next Friday.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Won't You Be My Neighbor, I think it's called. Super stoked on that. We'll definitely be doing a comprehensive review in the next Self-Care Sunday. So I say all this to say this little nugget of love reminds me to get the heck off my screen sometimes and be present with her in real time, because this is literally all we have is right now, because yesterday is dead, R.I.P. Tomorrow is a story that we're making up in the present, and that's it.
Yeah.
And when I was with Julia in her last days, she didn't have the option for the dignity that we give our pets, because we don't have right to die in the state of New York. Yeah. And she left me a couple of really distressing voicemails that basically ended with, I wish I could be put out of my misery. And so as Tiffy goes through her process of aging and, gets old, which ain't for the faint of heart, I hear, I think about Julia, and I think about how we relate to our situation as human beings, and how there are some things that I think we gloss over and put like a fake front, like those like not even braces, like the fake like teeth that they'll glue onto people's teeth. And I really appreciate having a little animal in my life for reminding me to not miss mine, and getting to share it with her has been a delight. So that reminds me, somebody on Instagram wanted me to talk more about books. I don't have the physical copy because it's an audiobook, but on that note, it looks like there's somebody that maybe knows you. Microwave Jack?
I don't know.
But we'll get into that in just one moment. I guess the last thought on this is the miracle of mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh. He has this story. There's this guy who had been really stressed out, and a couple years later he like re-met his teacher.
Yeah.
Who now he's a family. He was asking him like, how's it going? Like, are you still so stressed out? Do you still feel like you don't have time for anything? Which I'm like, who can relate to that shit? Especially around tax season, which thank God that's over. And he seemed different, the guy. You know, he has a partner and children and a job and all this stuff, and has to wash the dishes sometimes, and it felt like there was dish time and there was kid time and there was pet time and there was spouse time and there was all of these like sort of little slices of the pie that you know, weren't his time, until he realized that if he just called all of that time his time, suddenly he had unlimited time. And sometimes in my week, like when I'm making a deadline for a client and I want to work on focused AF, and all of a sudden I, like, you know, have Tiffy scratching at my leg, I'm like, what do you want? Get away, you know, go away, I'm busy. It can feel like it's not my time. But invariably when I let it all be my time and make time for love and being present, better ideas come. I'm less stressed out. I don't know. I just heard that story this morning. I was like, I want to share that.
That's great.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I got from the list of things. I'd love to switch gears and introduce you properly.
Yeah.
I would love. It looks like Microwave Jack did PBL with Michelle.
Oh, no way. Who is? Trevor.
From UPS. Yeah, Trevor from UPS.
Yeah, that's amazing. How do you know Trevor? Do you know Trevor?
Trevor, welcome. I assume Trevor maybe knows Wolf 359 or YouTube or I don't know. I make stuff online and I love the people that find it, and yeah,
that's awesome.
It's always fun to interact.
Send me a Facebook message, Trevor.
That's
we'll connect.
So cool.
Yeah.
I love it's such a small world.
Yeah, totally.
Aw. So yeah, happy Pride Month. Be you, be true. That's so great. Wolf 359. This is completely random.
Small
That's
world.
so
and
amazing.
We met through a friend, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like a couple months ago. Maybe it was a little bit longer than that.
I'm struggling actually to, was it Steve Dean or Steve Kraus? Okay, that's
same people.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. The same group. So
yeah.
it's like, remind me.
Yeah.
I've been hanging out with Steve Dean more because my roommate John has been working with him on stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. Both good Steves.
Yeah. I just see Shelley C. Perrin just came in. Welcome. And Savannah Hainsworth. It's really cool to get to share, and I'd love to hear in the chat what you're thinking of it now, or feel free to share your thoughts. But why don't you give a little bit of an info dump? Who are you? Where are you from? What are you working on these days?
Yeah.
And then we can get into...
Absolutely.
Yeah, get into it.
Yeah. So my name is Eric Lanigan. I have been doing one-on-one coaching for about 6 years now, and I've created a number of courses, actually 9 over the last 6 years. So for all the people out there who do creative things, artists and whatever, I've gone through that process a lot. And this last course is the only one that I've continued with past an initial test stage. So here we are about 9 months after the launch, and we've got... it's like a month-long course on how to get motivated and connected to yourself and understanding of your emotions and see your emotions in a different way, because oftentimes we relate to emotions as obstacles or things that throw us off or things that throw us into distraction or procrastination. And if we learn how to reorient ourselves with our emotions, then that changes that relationship. And so there's that, and then on the background in February, I added a sort of a private social network. It's called the Motivation Network. The motivation.network is the URL.
Oh my God, you got that.
You got that? Yeah.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge domain addict. Respect. Respect game. I'm thinking about getting rid of ifyousay.so.
Oh.
Kind of wanted to do poetry on it.
Yeah, I like it.
It's not cheap.
Actually, I'll say that the reason that we actually eventually got connected is because I was hanging out with our friend Steve.
Yeah, and you mentioned...
And I was like, oh, motivated.af is available. And he's like, You should meet Zach.
That is how we got introduced.
Yeah.
I forgot that's a critical part of the backstory that a lot of people here are going to appreciate.
Yeah, totally. So that's my background. I do one-on-one coaching, and then I have like 5 or 6 online groups that I run through this course every month, and then there's a private social network that sort of hangs out and talks about that process of connecting with themselves and taking action and understanding their emotions and deepening that self-relationship more. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I really loved meeting Eric. And I think there's some points of view that that sort of surfaced in our initial conversation. Just grabbing coffee because a friend was like, "Yo, you guys both search for AF domains," and I think one of them is this idea of dealing with motivation as a creative, and how to not necessarily make it like I don't know, a struggle or even.
Oh yeah.
Like you. So you just mentioned like your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
How would you define that? Or like, I guess, when you think about motivation and you think about these things, like, I guess, where do you start when you talk to somebody like me who may be dealing with, so like, and I'll just share personally.
Yeah.
I felt like a non-zero amount of stuck since Wolf 359 ended, and that's been changing a lot lately. I think I'm sort of discovering my process, and it's going a lot slower than I sort of expected it to, and there's a non-zero amount of, negative feeling around that. Like, I'm impatient to, like, have the dream. Not that that's really specific, because I've never really taken the time to, like, write it out, and I don't think I'm so attached to, like, the numbers of followers, but there is a desire for, like, this creating online to be how I, like, make my way through the world. And there's still a lot of, freelancing and other things that have my attention that would otherwise be spent on making stuff that I'm, like, 100%, like, exclusively from intrinsic motivation for myself, sort of running towards. And I guess, like, where I feel stuck is there's a desire to slow down and sort of unplug and take a lot of time to work on one thing concertedly. Not necessarily a book, but, like, instead of putting out, like, an episode every 2 weeks, or, I worry that I'm leaving an opportunity behind to not be, like, blanket bombing the internet with 6 hours of content a month on podcasting instead of the same amount of time that I spend to, like, craft 30 minutes, an hour. Is this making sense?
Makes perfect
sense. I feel like
sense.
I've just been talking for a while. So shut up.
So what's your commitment? What's your goal?
I guess my goal is to make as big an impact as I can, while not ever being a burden to, like, my family or the state financially. So, like, making enough money to live comfortably and have savings. I do not need a car, let alone multiples, like, living in the city. Like, I'm definitely not going for that ultra yacht lifestyle.
Totally.
And I do find myself concerned about finances more often than I'd love to, if only because, this is all sort of checking my privilege at the door, because, like, I can work for, fewer hours than many other people in the world have to make a very comfortable life work, and I think a non-zero amount of that is the gender and race that I was born with, and my parents, like, I owe everything to that, they've given me my life, and I've done stuff with it, and I also feel like I had an unfair head start. Not that it's unfair because I didn't have a fucking say in it, but also because it's, there's just, like, 7 billion people.
Yeah.
And this is, like, one of the luckiest human experiences I think has ever,
totally
existed. And
So, but what's the difference you want to
But
make?
The difference I want to make is.
And so for anyone else
please
who's like,
shut me up. Too, 'cause I'll just keep
it's all good.
talking.
For anyone else out there who's like a creative and you have something inside of you that you want to get out in the world, take a second to get in touch with what is at the center of that. What is that center drive? What is your intention? What do you want?
I think the thing that I keep saying, and this is especially as I have transitioned my media consumption time away from like pure entertainment and like towards things like, Fred Rogers and like various memoirs and sort of like mindfulness texts. Like a lot of Alan Watts lately has been like part of my media diet. And I just want to leave the room brighter than I found it. I guess you could also say that I sort of want to raise awareness, and that awareness could be about mental health and well-being and the impact mindfulness could have. It could be about making peace with yourself and all parts of yourself and feeling free to feel how you feel about anybody, so long as you're not doing harm to them or yourself.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of different sort of ways you could frame it or describe it and talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of comes down to leaving people, like anybody who's watching this, with like even like a fraction more peace of mind than they might have had if it wasn't streaming.
Yeah, totally. So at the center of it, you want to essentially create an open space for new connections to take place, and internal connections, external connections. You want a space for growth, maybe, understanding, awareness.
That sounds like an awesome start.
Yeah. So with that intention, or whatever anyone's intention is, for you, how do you know that's your intention?
How do I know that's my intention? I guess there is a felt sense of warmth and joy and enthusiasm, and there's a lot of energy and motivation that comes out when that's the game. Like when I'm in like the
so
hardest
it feels good.
Right, it literally
to play
feels
that
good
game.
To play that game
Yeah.
in specific moments. Like, it's hard to get started, but once I'm in an edit of Focused AF,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to be able to sort of imagine myself as a listener without necessarily having the context that I have of having lived it, and just like imagine that final product being available for a version of me in the multiverse, and like that could be anybody who's out there.
Yeah.
I get excited about it. It's like, I can stay up all night and work on that, no problem.
Yeah. So there is that feeling at the center.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you go through your life and you're figuring out where you want to invest your time, do I want to take a break from doing this every 2 weeks and really focus on something?
Right.
When you check in with your emotions now, where are you finding that energy coming?
Unfortunately, my emotions are quieter than my thoughts, my intellect.
Yeah.
And my brain is yelling, this is the best thing I've come up with, and it's like not the best because it's still there's a complaint.
Yeah.
That it's like maybe not enough or not really working.
Yeah.
But I feel like the every 2 weeks has been the solution that I found to doing it every day, which like there was no room for mindfulness. So like I think I hit a point where there was a lot of value in creating it, but it was also partly a lie, because what I was trying to share was this message of self-care.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I wasn't practicing what I preached.
Yeah.
And if it was my full-time thing, that would be a different story. Then that would be my full-time, and it wouldn't be around all these other things that made it unhealthy.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, like disconnecting, I just like, I don't know. I guess I have a superstition in my head that I would like lose touch with the people that are out there because like Wolf ain't getting any younger, you know, and like more people are finding it, but also like I don't know, I feel like I've seen people whose usernames I recognize disappear from the discourse and from the you know, so you're like, and you know you feel that as a creator, you know, especially when it's not making you your rent. It's like it feels like there's a loss in like watching people kind of go.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's some anxiety that if I just unplug,
but see,
it won't be as relevant.
Yeah. But you see what's happening is that there's those thoughts, right? And they create this potential fear reality.
Mm-hmm.
And
that brings a feeling.
But that feeling is that fear-based feeling, not the warm, creative-based feeling, right?
No, it's the tightness.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you
and
could
it's the
just
pressure, and it's like, I need to do this, and I should, and
I hate to call it anxiety because it's so much richer than that. There's like more to it. There's like in the solar plexus, like a tightness around the forehead. There's like a pointedness, and like doesn't feel like a headache, but if it stays for like 6 hours, it starts to hurt.
Yeah. So this is something that we talk about in the course that I have, clearlymotivated.com. But
which I haven't taken. I'm signed up for it, so I'm
yes.
gonna be logging in later today to check it out.
Yeah.
But
it runs monthly, to pay what you can kind of a situation.
I just see a question in the chat, so I want to make sure people feel like they're in the conversation.
Yes.
Fallen Star Burning asks, do you want to unplug because you want to be more productive? Why is that your impulse? I'll tell you the reason, and there's a book on my shelf that I if it was more convenient to go grab, I would.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite podcasts, The Ezra Klein Show, had an interview, and I think it's the best episode, Jaron Lanier, who came up with the term virtual reality. Jaron Lanier, he's like godfather of the internet, genius. I think his dream in life is to be an octopus. It's amazing. And he's like done it because he's a VR wizard.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book called You Are Not a Gadget, the foreword of which basically says, you are a minority of my reader, dear human, because most things that are written now, most things that exist, will be experienced more by machines than by people. But also not because is experience possible for machines?
Yeah.
We'll only know until we know, and I think it is, but I also don't know. There's a whole cosmological view we could get into, but the point is, he has this really brilliant thing that he says in it, which is, in order to share on the internet, you have to be someone first. And I feel like the pull of social media, from the design of the platform to the way that I have behaved on it, has reduced humanity.
Yeah.
Like on the platform level, just simply having drop-down boxes for age, gender, location, like, you know, all of these aspects of your identity. Like, it's like when you take something real and take a digital photo and it's pixels, and it might be rich pixels, but it's still little squares and not the wibbly,
fullness.
glorious reality.
So can we get into this? What does it mean to be, what did you say, a person or a human?
Well, before you can share anything, you have to be somebody.
Be somebody,
Something.
So what does it mean to be somebody?
Well, before I just want to finish answering the question.
Yes.
So the impulse is, I have a couple of people in my life who take regularly 3 to 6 months of silence in a year. They're not online.
Yeah.
They're not even talking to their families. They're just in like a room being quiet. And they seem to have gotten a lot out of that. And I don't feel like I'm in a position in my life where that's appropriate to my circumstances.
Yeah.
It is something that I'd like to explore in my 40s.
Yeah.
If I make it there. Like, amazing. Have a good night. Anybody who has to go because you're in a different time zone, I love how international this is.
Yeah.
Shout out where you're from because I just love to see it. But that's for later. I probably won't acknowledge it, but I will watch it and appreciate it. But just to make sure I answered your question, Fallen Star Burning, I want to like the impulse to unplug is to discover myself.
Yeah.
And to spend more time asking that hard question of, is this me? And mostly being like, nah, like what's deeper? What's underneath that? And I feel like there's a kind of attention that I have that's not capable of a particular kind of depth when I'm constantly in social media and constantly updated and just behind on messages and inboxes, because there's always more inboxes. And so there's this sense of presence that I'm interested in cultivating that I'm not sure is possible. Not like it's not possible to find a balance, because I feel like I am in the process of balance, which, as I've said in previous videos, is not a final state you get there. It's not like Utah. You don't like, which shout out to Savannah Hainsworth in Utah. Dublin, Ireland, Northern Germany.
That's incredible.
Utah, oh man, so cool. Illinois, man, so cool. I love the internet. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it's brought something great up, because we want to talk about what does it mean to be somebody. Not to keep talking about the course, but it's called A Big Shift. It's at clearlymotivated.com.
Yeah.
And it's about making the transition from someone who looks outside yourself for directions, answers, and self-worth,
Right.
to looking inside yourself for directions, answers, and self-worth. And to me, that's kind of the definition of being somebody, where you establish your own voice, your own authentic perspective on the world, which means you're not parroting another perspective. You're feeling into it and owning your own experience of reality. And that's an important distinction, is that it's your experience. And this is the same transition that you're talking about. You want to go maybe take a break from all of the running around to find yourself, which is to say, to find your own experiential take on what's true, right?
Sure. I have another thing on that, because I've been thinking a lot about self lately. I've been doing a training with a mentor around this technique called focusing.
Yeah.
Which delves really deeply into sort of idea of self, and that it's not personal.
Yeah.
And that as you get to know yourself, there's a self that's kind of includes all of us.
Yeah.
And you could call it a unified field of being, but they don't. That's another thing, but it all kind of relates.
Yeah.
But do things in your 40s, lol. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to take 2 months out of my life right now. My bank account certainly wouldn't want me to. But let's see. Hello to other Europeans. That's so cool. I just see Key Woodlock.
Staying up late. Yeah. It's late there.
That's badass. I see Key Woodlock with something that's relevant. Logging off helps me make art, because it's hard to hear your own voice when you're listening to reading so many others on social media. And I think that definitely relates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So part of the course that I run has
and just in case you have anything in your brain going off about like salesiness, it's a pay what you want experience.
Yeah.
Which I think is really honorable as a coach, and it is a $300 course. He gave me a friend access, so I'm not currently paying for it, but I will obviously leave a donation if I get value, because I feel like you're worth it.
It's pay what you can, but there's like a stage, because I couldn't just set it at pay any price, so it's like 60, 150, or 300.
Okay.
But then there's also a scholarship for every person who pays the 300, they create a scholarship slot for someone who can't afford even $60. And a lot of that's, I've got people from India in the course, all
That's
over
awesome.
Brazil. So there's some slots that are open for that as well.
Cool.
Usually when the conversion rate.
So what was the idea that you were sharing?
Yeah, so coming back to being somebody and having that transition from looking outside for directions and answers, right? Because this is what happens in the personal growth promise. The personal growth promise is one where we are looking to these books, these courses, these podcasts or whatever, and we're hoping that we'll find some information out there that's going to make all the difference, that's going to change it. And as long as we're in just that orientation, nothing or very few things change, because all of our attention is out there and it's not in here. And which is to say what you're talking about doing when you want to go away for 2 months and just focus on in here. But in here exists right now. Right? You can feel what you're feeling right now. And every morning when you wake up and every night when you go to sleep and throughout the day, you can always feel what's in here if you bring your attention there.
Right.
So, I took like 20 plus multiple day personal growth courses after college, where I realized I was like day trading futures and all my identity and self-worth was all wrapped up.
Stock thing.
was wrapped up in making money in that way. And when I realized that my life effectively was sitting in front of a screen and not creating value for anyone, I was kind of skimming money out of the system. It was kind of unfulfilling. And then it helped also that the market crashed, and I actually made money in the market crash, but then afterwards the volume was so low I didn't have the trades coming up as often as I did before because the volume was really low.
Yeah.
So that also helped getting me out of it. But the point is that
thank God for us.
After that, I started trying to understand what would be fulfilling and how do you find fulfillment. So I went to all these courses, 10-day silent meditation retreats, landmark courses, other things. And a lot of them were very good. But when I was taking them in from a conceptual framework and trying to break them down and understand them up here,
and not looking for the right answer.
Exactly. Looking for the right answer rather than looking for my answer.
Spoiler, I don't think a right answer exists. If anybody's selling you one, it sounds like they want your money.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
There's your answer.
Right.
Which can only be found in your own experience.
Right.
Which is very closely tied to your emotions. Right? And emotions, if we're going to motivation, emotions are what I say are the foundation for motivation. They even share the same Latin root word, movere, to move. So in getting in touch with your emotions on a regular basis, in the course we do it on a daily basis, you start to get an understanding of what emotions are present and what those motivations are having you sort of impulsively or move to do, not necessarily impulsively, but also inspired to do. Or, what is this anxiety pointing to? Because if we start to orient to our emotions as signals, we stop running away from them and we start to listen. And as we start to listen, we start to put our ear to our inner experience, which is exactly what you're talking about doing or wanting to do by taking a 2-month break, for example, right?
Right.
And when we do that, we start to get in touch with, on a more regular basis, that inner warmth that lights us up. And in feeling through that, getting in touch with what are the actions that are actually aligned with that feeling. And conversely, let's look at that anxiety of, realizing that we're ultimately all going to die, or that, this podcast that you had is in the past. And so people are maybe, you're losing your opportunity or your window to launch into something else or whatever, right? So there's that fear, this pressure of potentially losing an opportunity. And what that does, or what any emotional anxiety or fear of the future does, or uncertainty, is it clouds our emotional space, right? You can't simultaneously experience that warmth and aliveness and purpose and meaning and that anxiety at the same time. And so when we have that anxiety, we try to run and check things off and go. But because we're orienting from that place of fear rather than that place of warmth, that place of alignment, that place of purpose or desire, sometimes the actions are aligned, but you don't have the ongoing experience of meaningfulness, of purpose, of love, of rightness or authenticity. And so taking that time every day to put your ear to your own experience starts to shift that.
So what I'm hearing is that I might be rushing to another conceptual, like basically I might be trying to get a shortcut by taking 2 months off
Yeah.
versus just exploring my emotions in the present, and it might be 15 minutes a day
Yeah.
versus like this sounds like
Or whenever you have a stuck problem.
My point
creative-
is that like
Yeah.
my solutions oriented brain is excited
Yeah.
because like I would rather not disappear for 2 months. I also like financially couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like if I want, like right now, that would be like, I could take a month off, but I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah.
I also like being in the world, and like my family's here. They're not going to be here forever. That's sort of why I'm like
Yeah.
40s, 50s. Like I love the idea of maybe taking a 3-month silent meditation retreat and just going through that.
Absolutely.
Whereas now it feels like I would be getting away with that versus doing it sort of responsibly. But this is so interesting. Microwave Jack. It feels like there's such an interesting parallel between what we're talking about and the struggle we went through with the administration about PBL. But
Yeah.
maybe that's not for now.
Yeah.
How long does the course last? What does it entail? Shelley missed the first part
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
stream.
Sure. Hey, Shelly. So the course is a month long. It has 5 group calls, and the first group call is with the graduates from the previous section, and so it runs 5 times or 6 times every month. So it runs at 12 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. And so those are the group call times. And then on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and then 3 p.m. Eastern. Cool. And on Thursdays, and that's the group call time. So we get together, usually 6 to 8 people, and we go through the online course material. The course material is obviously an online platform at clearlymotivated.com. It's there's about 20 to 30 minutes of material per week of just concepts, because we don't want to make it a concept-centered course. All the concepts are pointing you to actions and awareness of your immediate experience. Either taking actions imperfectly and then observing how it feels to do that,
Yeah.
or directly just paying attention to your
It's so
experience.
funny you say this. So just to share a little bit more about the focusing course that I'm in
Yeah.
with Lynn Preston. So that anybody who subscribes to my channel and has notifications definitely has met or has at least seen that I've been working with a woman named Lynn Preston, who's a therapist.
Yeah.
She is a master of this technique called focusing, which is not therapy. It's distinct, but
Yeah.
it's very useful for that sort of work. And it's all a matter of sort of listening for what's underneath the surface, and sort of getting into that emotional, sort of they talk about the felt sense, capital F, capital S.
Yeah.
And she's actually doing a 4-week training for free in her living room, and the only
cool.
price is that you have to go pay it forward. So as I think we talked about in our first hangout, I've always wanted to make online courses since working at a startup that did that.
Yeah.
I've actually like reproduced most of the studio that I built at that startup here in this apartment just for that purpose. So I'm excited to start thinking about maybe doing a 4-section. I don't know if I want to do as one video or multiple videos, but I do want
That's
to
really cool.
like share what I learned in the felt sense sort of focusing work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd be happy to tell you more about that offline and
Sure.
get your take. And I think one of the reasons, aside from the immediate benefit that I have in wanting to take your course, is just get a sense of when you're not teaching coding, how the hell do you teach something like, internal work through the web seems difficult. And from everything that I've gotten from our interaction, like you're on the cutting edge. So I'd love to check it out.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we met.
Of course.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
But I guess in the last sort of couple of like moments, I think we'll probably wrap up in about 10 minutes.
Perfect.
But I guess where would you like to take us in the last 10 minutes?
Well, I'll re-emphasize the importance of listening to your emotions as signals. because if you're not aware of your emotions, you're going to be reacting to them. And that means jumping into distractions, procrastination, popping up, open
I don't know
Reddit
anything
or Facebook.
about those. I'm not really a Reddit guy, but
Yeah.
YouTube, man, I fall into
YouTube.
a hole.
We all have our holes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Especially now that I've been like collecting audio clips for Focused AF.
You can just spend all day collecting audio clips.
My God.
Yeah.
I am like one of those crazy people cutting out like things from like newspapers and like making murder letters with other people's stuff, and like I've like got like an audio version of the pin board with
That's
all the yeah,
hilarious.
It's crazy. It's a real mess on there.
Yeah.
It's great.
So the transition that we want to make is one from just one, not being at all aware of our emotions, which at that point we're kind of just on autopilot, right? Where we go through life and we get some signal and then we react to it and respond to it. We're putting out fires. A lot of the time is a lot of what the people I work with, especially if they are, you know, in the gig economy, that's what they're doing, is they're just putting out fires. They're not sort of, like for me, I can, if I want to, work like 10 hours a week.
Right.
Just show up to my calls.
Yeah.
And so what do I do with the rest of my time? Well, I could binge watch Game of Thrones if I wanted.
Right.
But ultimately that is not something that feels good to do. And coming to that awareness, that happens when you...
What if you do enjoy binging lots and lots? What if it does feel good to binge lots of television?
Well, so I would encourage...
Doesn't always.
No.
Yeah.
I would encourage people to feel into that and actually be honest with themselves, right? So if someone's...
sometimes when it's not fun and I don't notice, and then I do, and it's like, oh no.
If there's like an anxiety building, or if you notice that while you're binge watching, you start to grab a bag of chips, or you start to open up your phone, and so now you're using different tools of emotional numbing and distracting, right? So if you try, and that's a good signal for I'm not actually doing what I want to do, I'm just avoiding this feeling of anxiety, which is pointing me, we don't want anxiety. I've had a former client, or a current client actually, say, Eric, I feel anxiety all the time. I don't want to feel anxiety anymore. Huh. And I said, well, what is the anxiety about? And she was starting a business, and she said, well, in this case, it's about this business partner, and he's willing to put in the same amount of money, but it seems he's kind of older. He might not want to put in all the sweat equity that we need.
Yeah.
And I said, so why do you want to stop feeling that anxiety around this? She said, well, I just don't want to feel anxiety anymore. It's just annoying. I would just like to not have it and be able to move forward like everything's going to be great. I said, well, what if that anxiety is an important signal that this person isn't the right person to go into business with? And she said, yeah, I don't think he is.
Right.
And so in listening to that emotion as a signal,
really useful,
she identified that there might be something amiss here.
Right.
And so her assumption that was tied with this signal was that he isn't someone who wants to put in all the sweat equity.
Right.
And so I encouraged her to, don't just go fire him as a potential business partner, but go check that assumption and have a conversation with him. And when she did, that's what she found. And he was like, yeah, I'm retired. I'm happy to put in money, but I don't want to have this be a full-time job.
Right.
And they mutually agreed to split ways. And that was a much better situation for everyone involved.
That's awesome.
And so learning how to...
what I'm hearing is anxiety actually isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Not at all. It's a signal.
Data.
It's information.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like if you're trying to walk down the street...
It's a light on your dashboard.
Absolutely. If you try to walk down the street and close your eyes, you're going to run into things. Right? And it's the same way with life. If we don't pay attention to our ongoing experience, we want to enjoy life, right?
Right.
So let me say this really quick.
Yeah, please.
Enjoying life happens in our emotions. If we are not paying attention to how we're feeling, how do we know what actions are actually experientially causing us to feel good? We're not. We're only in a conceptual framework where we're going after things to check the box, but we don't know what actually feels good, right? And petting the cat and pausing and focusing and bringing attention into the moment and giving love and attention is something that sometimes we don't feel like we have time for. But experientially, when you drop in, and allow yourself to be present in that way, you find that there's nothing else that you'd rather do. And there's nothing more meaningful than that. Except maybe that whatever that is that lights you up, that warm feeling inside about doing the right thing, doing the authentic thing, expressing yourself in a way that feels powerful and important and necessary and authentic, and like it's your purpose to express. That might be the only thing that's perhaps more important.
Great. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Did you want to try a meditation or like a practical sort of like feeling inside experiment? I don't know. I'd be curious if that's something that,
let's see what comes up. Yeah. So everyone here, find yourself in a comfortable position and just take a couple deep breaths.
So yeah, we're gonna do what's called meditation, and he's gonna lead us in an experience. And why would somebody be interested in doing this? Like, who is this for?
Let's not call it a meditation.
Okay.
Let's call it just a check-in. And it's
that.
for anyone who isn't feeling that immediate sense of love and aliveness. And
maybe if you feel anxiety.
It's great. Yeah. So if you don't feel that immediate aliveness and you're already on your path of whatever you want to be doing, which maybe you wouldn't be watching this if you were on that, but that's what it's going to be for.
Cool.
So bring your attention into your body and just take a couple of deep breaths.
I feel like Tiffy's really good at this.
I think so. And just drop into your ongoing, immediate experience. If your awareness comes to sort of tension, as you breathe in, bring your attention to that tension. And as you breathe out, allow that tension to release as much as it wants to release. And do that for a few breaths. So you're not fighting the tension, you're not resisting it or pushing it away, you're just inviting it to release as you breathe out. And in this process, bring your awareness to what you're feeling. And just consider that all of the emotions you're feeling, whether they're sadness or excitement or anxiety or frustration or whatever, they're just signals. So what you've done in the last few minutes or moments is you've turned on your heads-up display for another kind of sense. Your internal sense, your emotional sense. And as we take another few breaths, just allow that emotional sense to heighten as you drop in further. I'll say that you can't do this wrong. Some people are more aware of their emotions than others, but there's no wrong way to do this as long as you're putting your attention in your body and observing what you experience. And just notice whatever emotion is at the surface. Bring it to the forefront of your experience. And sit with it to understand what it's indicating. Why is this here? Not an analytical question. You're not analyzing your emotions, because that immediately takes a snapshot of your immediate experiential awareness and turns off the immediate experiential awareness and takes that snapshot up to your head, and you start to analyze it and consider it with concepts. We don't want to do that. We want to just stay with the ongoing immediate experience. So that emotional signal, what is that indicating? Maybe it's, I need to check email. I haven't checked email in a while, and I know there's some important emails that I need to respond to. Maybe it's, I have a dinner party tomorrow, and I'm hosting it, and I need to clean up. I'm just giving examples of certain things that might be coming into your awareness in the form of emotional signals. And if you have access to a pencil and paper or pen and paper, as these emotions come up, you can write down what those emotions are signaling. And if you get the emotion, usually that emotion will release. But most of the time, especially if we aren't checking in on a regular basis or a daily basis, we have a chorus of emotions that are sort of all going off at once. And if they're all going off at once, that can create a very overwhelming experience. And overwhelming experiences are unpleasant. And this is what drives us impulsively to numb them or distract from them. And so we jump to food, video games, porn, YouTube, whatever. So you can follow each emotional signal to sort of what it's indicating, and then write that down, whether it's, I had this thought and I didn't explore it further, and I want to explore it further, or this is an action item or a to-do item, or I just realized that I haven't booked my hotel rooms for my friend's wedding in August or whatever, and there's a limited number, and it's better to do that now than later. Because all of these emotional signals are going to be coming up in your life, and they'll keep coming up in your life if you don't listen to them and understand them and act on them. And once all of them are sort of out, there's a sense of calm that comes in. You know, I like to think of emotional signals kind of like my microwave, because my microwave, it beeps every 3 minutes if you don't open it, if you've put food in it. And it'll keep beeping into infinity as long as there's electricity if you don't open the door and answer that signal. Same with your emotions. And as we turn to face the emotions, turn to face our ongoing immediate experience, we start to encounter a sense of, I'll say, truth. Because objectively, there is no answer to the why of existence. So we're going to go deep here a little bit. There's no objective answer to the why of existence. I just visited NASA headquarters in Houston a few days ago, and it's kind of inspiring to see a sort of a launching point or a headquarters for the launching point into the adventure into space. But we are on a rock flying around a star in a galaxy with hundreds of billions of other stars, in a universe with hundreds of billions of galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars. And there's no reason objectively why. We might get a how, science might eventually get to understand the process, but the reason why, it might be a lot longer until we get that conceptually, and we might never get that conceptually, but experientially, we can come to that answer in our subjective reality. you can get that answer of that inner purpose, that sense of inner purpose, that inner why, experientially. And that is what can drive you to do whatever is important to you. But we don't engage that when we are engaging conceptual understanding. When we are, generally speaking, when we're reading whatever personal growth books we're reading and only engaging in the conceptual and never paying attention to the one corner of the universe that is only for us to explore, which is our own inner experience. And I love that we had the idea of becoming somebody to be someone online, because to be somebody is to connect with your own experience and have your own perspective, your own answer for why. So, as you finish up this exercise, maybe take a few more deep breaths. And if it's there, if something opened up or shifted in your understanding of your immediate experience, maybe a shift of commitment to actually paying attention to what's going on in your experience. It's always there. There's always something going on. There's always emotion. It's always motivating you in one way or another. Whether it's motivating you because you're reacting to the feelings, or it's motivating you because you're in line with and listening to the emotions and understanding what they're pointing to as signals, and then consciously choosing whether you want to honor them with action or honor them by just observation and understanding, and then honoring other important signals, motivations. So with
awesome.
that, we can welcome you back.
I feel great.
What was your experience in that?
There was a lot of different, there was a really sort of powerful felt sense of expansiveness when you started getting into the scale of our situation. And I see somebody has a physics test tomorrow, so they appreciated that as well. Sort of the cosmic perspective is something that I find is really grounding. And I think there was just that anxiety to find an answer for why versus feeling inside sort of shifted as we went through that. And there's a lot more of a sense of sort of peace and calm in listening for that why inside versus like trying to find it out here.
Because you won't find it out there. And I want to say this about this beautiful approach to living life has come up out of the last 20 years or so, and that's find your purpose. But we still have the old approach to trying to do that, and that old approach is looking out here for it. And we're still trying to grasp it out there. And there isn't a lot of good information, or at least the paradigm shift hasn't been made on a cultural level yet, that the only way to find your purpose is in your own ongoing experience, when you can get in touch with that sense of warmth and sense of rightness.
Awesome.
And if you're not in touch with that sense of that rightness or authenticity yet, that only happens by paying attention. And you will get that if you continue to presence what you're actually experiencing, and when you're going through a situation, what you're feeling.
Awesome. So thank you for coming. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to share you with the fam. Thank you guys for being here and sticking around. I love Self-Care Sunday. It's my favorite day of the month.
Can I say something to Sean really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So anxiety with other people, whether it's someone that you're interested in dating or just another person, taking some time to sit with that feeling of anxiety, because usually it's about what is this other person going to think of me. And it's from this perspective that I don't have a subjective reality that's worth getting in touch with. My own experience isn't worth getting in touch with. And I want to get in touch with their inner experience, their subjective reality, because that's where I can get some validation from. Whether it's dating or otherwise, right? And the shift that comes in the Big Shift course, the shift that comes as we become somebody, is when we realize that we have an internal subjective reality that's valuable. And so then we go into situations with other people, and we're not looking for them to validate us. We're just being there, and we value our ability to appreciate what we see.
Great.
So, Sean, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but thank you for sharing. And being
Alexi
vulnerable.
W., I'm so thrilled to hear that this has been great for you. It has totally been great for me.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to be in the comments. So after the video isn't live, and shout out to all you people who are watching this later, the comment section opens up, and we'll be in there the next week. If you have any questions or if there's anything you want to talk about, I don't know, are you on social media, or I don't know if you want to share an email?
I'm gonna create a Facebook page for Clearly Motivated at some point this month. I'm so off social media, it's silly.
The thing will be in the notes. In the meantime, clearlymotivated.com. Do you have an email address?
I do.
Reach you at?
Yeah, Eric at ericlanigan.com. ERICLANIGAN.com.
That'll be in
the
description. We'll do that.
Please reach out.
Thank you, guys. Would love to know what has worked for y'all. If there are things that resonate that you're like, yo, people need to know about this, like, please share your notes and your experience. I would love to hear it. This little one is a nightmare with this thing. She pulled down the shades earlier. Being a dad's hard, sometimes.
To a 13-year-old, no less.
Yeah, actually, though. I don't know. What else did I want to say? Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this community. If you don't subscribe, please consider subscribing and signing up for notifications. You'll be the first to know whenever I go live or upload stuff, and I am looking to get back into uploading like regular edited videos. Not sure, don't want to overpromise, but that's something that's sort of wanting to come out. Obviously, if you don't follow me on Twitter, that's where I sort of like let people know when I'm going live. Also, other stuff.
Do you feel that warmth of purpose right now?
Not sharing the link stuff, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like...
Is there a way that you could
muscle
close
memory.
that doesn't have that has more of that purpose?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not trying to criticize this. I don't do this, so I don't know what the hell works or doesn't work.
Honestly, I think the thing that I would love to say is I am having a real enlightening time cracking my chest open every other week on Focused AF, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. I don't care how you tell me about it. There are a million ways to contact me, from my email to Twitter to this, and you can figure all that out because you're a smart person, because you're on your computer, and I figure you have that figured out. And I am interested in discovering what my life is for, and I think that that is in many ways discovering who I am, and I am open to that there is no me without all of you, and I think that I would get a lot out of a conversation around the conversations that I'm sharing on Focused AF. So if there's anybody who's been listening to that and has feedback, and if you haven't been listening to it, I'd love to hear from you on that. I definitely feel like one of the luckiest people to ever live, even in the midst of dealing with a family health crisis and, still sort of being in that weird transitional period in my 20s where I'm still sort of becoming and may never end.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly grateful to the people that that are part of this community that generate the support that I think has healed a lot of people and made a big difference for people that I may never meet.
Community is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
And I know not everybody can afford to be part of the Patreon community that I have, and
Yeah.
I definitely don't take that personally, and I want to own that it may leave people feeling left out when I shout out those people. And for better or worse, there is a financial dimension to creation.
Yeah.
And the thing that's really exciting is the possibility of abundance, where I reach a point where I've met my needs and I can fund other projects.
Yeah.
And that's part of a vision that I've been articulating for myself, that I'm not exactly sure what it looks like in the final stage. And I'm not sure there is a final, it's like one of those things that's sort of emerging, whether it's a business or just how I live is to be determined.
I think that as you follow that aliveness, that will lead you to whatever is the path, because that's what it is, right? That's we want to experience aliveness no matter what. That's the
right, and
peak.
Like the more I give myself permission to be kind of gonzo and feel into my process and not worry about whether I'm crazy or not, because I just have good mental health resources and I'm candid with friends and family, so I feel like I'm checked.
Yeah.
It's felt increasingly like the many all over the place parts of my life are integrating. So, this feels like a part of that, and you are all in the front row to that here online. And I highly recommend to anybody who's thinking about experiencing therapy and trying therapy to try therapy. Coaching and therapy are distinct and both valuable and great. I just see some talk about that, and I want to yes and all of that.
If you get a therapist, make sure you find a therapist that resonates with you.
Right. Feel free to fire your therapist and
Yeah.
find a new one. Just because you found a therapist that you don't like doesn't mean therapy doesn't work. It works best when you find somebody that works with you.
And you feel understands you.
Right.
And you feel connected. Which is to say, that's what heals anything, is a sense of connection.
Right.
Right? Addiction is healed with connection, not with,
abstinence. That's part of the healing process.
Absolutely.
But what motivates the other? What's the cart? What's the horse? I feel like we could talk forever.
Yeah, I know.
Love you guys.
Rated in infinitus.
Thank you for another amazing Self-Care Sunday.
Thanks for being here.
Time.
Nice to meet you.
And stay tuned for July. We'll be live, whatever that first Sunday of July is, and hopefully we'll have Frame Shift done. It will be done July 4th. I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I honestly don't know what Sunday falls there. But, yep. Until next time. This is the part where I find the button to turn off the stream.
Okay.
And it goes on longer than it should.
Yeah.
Oh, except it's right there this time.
That's easy.